Hello, Tim. It's me again.
What is up? What's up?
I don't think I've actually said like my full name recently. Hello, it's me, Zack Miller. That's Tim Ryan.
Yeah, welcome to
How's it
show
going?
146.
What is significant about episode 1 that you learned about last week?
Well, you broke out the jean jacket, the denim jacket.
And I believe that was the first and only time I think I've ever worn it. We'll have to look back, but I think that's it. And I think that's the last time I actually wore it. What's significant about that, though, is that today's guest is also wearing a jean jacket. Tim, do you own a jean jacket?
I don't, but I have nothing against it, man. They're pretty hip. I don't have a lot of jackets. I'm just yeah.
What's funny about jean jackets is that, and I know you don't like this store, Tim, but every time I'm in Wally World, I walk by the jean jacket aisle and I see them. I'm like, all right, let's go.
I, I don't know if I ever heard the story to dislike it, Zach.
But you don't like Wally World.
Oh. Well, I don't have anything against I don't have. Yeah, I don't have anything against it. It's just yeah.
It's not a place that you frequent. I understand.
No.
Emanuel Perez, welcome to the show. Thank you for wearing your Canadian tuxedo.
Happy to be here. Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, man, great to see you. I'm trying to think. The first time that, if I remember right, the first time we met was with our newsletter, right? Was that? So Startwheel has a newsletter we put out every Tuesday morning, and I highly recommend that everybody subscribe to the newsletter. Um, we many people say it's the best newsletter they get. Those are their words; they're not mine. But I'm just saying. So subscribe to the newsletter. But one of the things that I always put down, I'm just a person of the founders. As a founder of some ventures myself, I love the founders, and I don't know. I don't know if people just they don't believe it, if they think it's just lip service or whatever. But in most of my newsletters, I always put a link like either to me or to my Calendly link, and I say, hey man, if anybody wants to chat, reach out, and you did that, and I think that was the first time we met, if I remember right.
That was it. I think it was sometime last year, in either April or May, but I've been a subscriber to Startwheel now. Silicon Anchor, is that right?
Yeah, that was just and we can jump into that conversation too, because like it's just funny how that has all kind of gone full circle, and Zach has some history behind that as well. But this is just the moniker that we're using right now.
Is the newsletter now called Silicon Anchor Newsletter or something like that?
We just the Silicon Anchor News.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think it goes with the flow for the 757 in our nautical environment.
You'd be surprised at how many people don't get it, but
I mean, it's just,
yes.
From the fishermen in Pocosin to people harvesting oysters in Virginia Beach, to the shipyard, to the world's largest Navy base. I mean, water. If you live in this area, water it affects you somehow.
Water is the word. It just makes too much sense. But people I did it in 11 or 12 came up with the idea, something like that. And it was an extension of this event that we did called Start Norfolk. And it basically became this brand that I called Silicon Anchor News. The area was going to be called Silicon Anchor to be compared to, or at least be in parallel to, at that point, maybe 20 other Silicon areas. So you got your
Silicon Alley,
Silicon Alley, Slopes. Yeah, there's a Wikipedia page. Tim talked about it a couple weeks ago. Like, there's all these places, and it was like, I was really big into like startup communities at that point, and like going to different ones, and several of them had a name, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And Silicon Prairie was the one I mimicked Silicon Anchor after, because they had a kind of media company around it, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And that's the Omaha-ish area and surrounding probably 100 miles. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. What if we created like a media organization around that? I have a TV background. There could be something there. Call it Silicon Anchor because of the water, the nautical references, the Navy references. Just anchor here is a good thing to build up from. We did that for like a year. It probably just wasn't the right time at that point. One of my many failures in life.
No, I think that you're just an early guy. You know, like you've always been a little bit ahead of your time.
Yeah. But I don't know where I was going with that. But I have something interesting in this is, okay, so you replied to an email. Is that what you replied to one of those start?
I sure did. And I think in the body of the email or somewhere, maybe in the subject line, it was like, contact me or put time in my calendar. And I'd already been a subscriber for about a year or two. I was like, yeah, why not? Like this guy is super consistent. Every Tuesday I get an email from Tim, why not? And I just booked some time on his calendar, and then we met, and it was super cool. Like I imagined it to be so comfortable. And we just hit it off from there.
I would envision that anyone that's subscribed to a newsletter, for the most part, that if they reply to the person and that isn't info@whatever.com, that person is probably going to reply with them. And that is a tremendous opportunity for you to get in touch with that person, where if you were just to cold email them, you would have less likely of a chance, unless you put together a super duper email to them, which most people aren't strategic enough or creative enough to do that. Just reply to that email. You're probably going to get a response to some regard, and kudos to you for doing that. And I think more founders should do that to people that they want to get in touch with, because Tim says it all the time. It's very easy to get a hold of me.
Yeah,
but
I mean it. I sincerely mean it, just in the sense of, Zack, you know just as well as I do. I mean, everyone, you and I, we have really big networks. Emanuel, I'm sure you have a very big network as well. But it's just amazing, man. Like when you can put the power of networks into action. And just in terms of who knows who, the degrees of separation just continue to narrow, and take advantage of it. So
just the stat behind that is 80% of people that you meet, let's just say at a networking event, only 20% of those people will actually follow up with the people that they met. 80% of those people might get a business card. They'll never do anything with it. So if you just play in that 20% sandbox, you're gonna win, and you're gonna do very well. So
yeah.
Even on that point, Zach, I've been going off of something like called vibes, just energy alone at networking events. When I was in college, I think I tried to play the numbers game, like, oh, let me meet everyone in the room and try to get everyone's LinkedIn right. And then it wasn't a very fruitful strategy. But now it's like, if I meet someone, it's a slower conversation and less of the what do you do versus who are you. I'd like to get to know more about you. And I think that bears more fruit long run than trying to zigzag and hit everybody in the conference room.
I hate the "what do you do" question. It's literally the worst question that you could ever ask someone. It's so irrelevant. The "who are you" is better. My favorite is "what are you watching on Netflix?" Or I try to find something special about them, like your jean jacket. If I met you in person, that would be the first thing I talk to you about, is the jean jacket, or your headphones. I'd ask you about what headphones are that. Tim's probably wearing a Tesla shirt or a SpaceX shirt, or
I wear the same. This is my Thursday show shirt. It is a SpaceX shirt, but I wear it every single Thursday.
And I would ask him about something like that. If someone had a cool tie, like something, a New York Yankees hat, anything, I would talk to them about that thing first, rather than be like, "Oh, excuse me, what do you do for a living?" And then you have to get into this. "Oh, let me give you my elevator pitch, and hopefully it goes well. But actually, you're an insurance agent, and I can't stand you." So then it's just like.
Yeah,
I digress. Heavy sigh.
I think, and then that's first time we met in person was at Mighty Dream, was it not?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was there.
What'd you think of Mighty Dream?
I loved it. I
did too.
That Norfolk has been long due for something like Mighty Dream Forum, bringing together people who are an S class in business, just to 757 and showcasing the opportunities that we have, and showing what opportunities this region can offer to entrepreneurs and business owners. And it's because you always hear about cities like New York and San Francisco and Miami and Norfolk and Virginia Beach and 757 area doesn't really get that much attention. And I get it. It's largest naval base in the world, very government heavy and contracting, but I think there's an untapped talent here. I think, Tim, you do a great job at showcasing that, and along with you too, Zach, with this podcast. it's really great to see.
And you had a different role at Mighty Dream Forum, right? You pitched.
I did. Yep.
So yeah, talk about that, because and you came back with some hardware too, if I remember right, or at least not necessarily hardware, but paper, which is the best kind of hardware.
I did. Yeah, I came back home with a big fat check, and
was it one of those big checks, like the cardboard ones?
It was. I actually have it right next to me. Believe it or not.
Those things are actually more expensive to buy than you think.
Those things crazy.
Those things, because when we just a quick little side story. When we did our first start in Norfolk, we gave away, I think, 10 grand or something like that. And I was going to go get one, but they were like $200. I was like, I'm not spending $200.
I would rather give the founder the $200.
Right. And that's what we ended up doing. But like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's the most absurd thing ever. Like, why is this so expensive? But anyway, so you got it right there. Continue.
I do. Yeah. So I pitched at my dream forum, but how that started was Black Ambition Prize launched. I think there's a second year launching your standard Black Ambition Prize and your HBCU Prize, which are a set of prizes for Black and Hispanic entrepreneurs. And our HBCU Prize solely focus on students at HBCUs and recent graduates within 2 years. And I graduated a year and a half ago, so I was eligible to apply for HBCU Prize. And I'm graduated from Norfolk State University, right down the street from me. So it was perfect. Like the timing was perfect. And I had already applied in 2021 and was accepted. And then I think when Something in the Water came in 2019, I applied for the pitch competition. I wasn't even considered. So this is technically my third time at bat. And I went through the process. I applied with my startup idea, Novus, which I was actually talking to Tim about when we first talked over Zoom, when I just cold emailed him. And I applied with a mentor of mine, Dominique Calder, who was my advisor at the time, and then later became my co-founder. And so we went through a pretty rigorous process. They had, I think, roughly 3,000 applicants. And then they had 250 semifinalists. And those 250 semifinalists, they had, I think, roughly 35 finalists. Or no, they had 49 to 50 finalists. And then they had 30 to 35 top finalists. And then there's like another upper echelon of 8 finalists that got to pitch on stage during the My Dream Forum the first day in Norfolk. And I was one of those 8.
How nervous were you, or did you I would imagine even if you practiced over and over, just relentless practice, that you would still be nervous when you get on a big stage, something like that.
Oh, absolutely. What's cool though is that they hooked us up with a celebrity pitch coach by the name of John Guyton, and he had this awesome assistant named Ethan, and they were both very instrumental in making sure that all 8 of us were on point. Even for the other finalists that made it too, he was very, very, very focused on making sure we had our pitch down pat, and that our delivery and execution was also on point. So we focused on iterating our script, and then telling a story and going through 9 different elements of a pitch, from our why to our problem statement to our demo to everything else in between, and in a really clean closing, and making sure our delivery and our voice and our enunciation was on point. So we literally went through it was like a 1-month masterclass on pitching 101. And before that, when I was in Norfolk State and I did other hackathons, I would always wing my pitches. I would always wing it. So he made sure there were no ums, no uhs. Like John made sure like it was crystal clear. So yeah, like before I went up to pitch, I was second in line, and out of nowhere, like Pharrell just comes out the back of the tent. And I'm like, oh man, like I'm like, wow, I have to do a good job now, right?
Yeah, because it's definitely, but that's one of the things that we always say. I mean, this is a performance, and he is a performer, so he would expect much of the same.
I think
it was so cool because I think all that practice really did a great job. So I did a really, really good job at pitching on stage, and I had some family and friends, my landlord, then landlord, in the audience. So there was like, I told everybody I had a home court advantage. I couldn't lose.
The friends and family could be a worse thing because you actually have someone to like you're expecting to please, I guess. And so that,
yeah, I was going to ask you, did you focus on them, or did you purposely not focus on them, just having comfort knowing that they were in the audience?
I think there was a little bit more comfort there, just because I could hold eye contact with them longer, and instead of gazing, I could like hold eye contact for a few seconds, then break.
You could actually see with those lights.
I could.
Wow.
Not where we were.
Whew.
I think I had some like 20/30 vision, so that might have helped a little bit.
Wow.
Oh no, this was just straight sunlight into the eyes in a dark corner.
Tim, who were the judges? Do you remember?
It's a good question. I know there's somebody who used to work with this NFT project called Akatars, who used to be on their team. Summer Walton, she was one of the judges. There was another person from Techstars. I can't remember her name. I think her first name is Monique. There was another person, I think, from the Rockefeller Foundation, or had an affiliation with them. And there were some more judges I can't remember, but they were prepared.
Yeah, because we met at the rooftop of Assembly at a Black Brand gathering, and it was amazing how many people. Like, there were more people from out of the area that were at this particular event at the rooftop than there were, it seemed like, from the Hampton Roads area. So I mean, it was just, from that standpoint, it was really, really cool that so many people saw Norfolk for the very first time. Like, they had no idea that anything like this ever existed, or we even had something like this. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was really nice. I think, yes, Assembly is a really amazing space, and that you can't beat that view from a rooftop.
That is true.
Articulating, this is a hard stance, I think, for many people to believe, get behind, whatever. I have been a part of several performances myself, coach people through them, whether that be through a demo day, a startup weekend style event, something like a Mighty Dream, a podcast, anything like that. It's almost like if you can't articulate and be a little over the top, and not a lot, but like have like enthusiasm, just a little bit of enthusiasm. Maybe that's like the minimum criteria. Maybe you should find someone else to sell some of that stuff on stage. And so, like, I think back, and I don't know that you were at this thing, Tim. Were you at the very first Hatch demo day at the 20th floor at Kaufman and Canals?
No.
Were you there when there were 15-minute pitches? I remember I had this vision then. And I like this person. I'm going to throw him under the bus. He'll be fine with it. But I just remember like comparing like Byron Morgan's pitch, which was good. He had vinyl mint. He was a very outgoing, gregarious person. And he William and Mary MBA, understood how to like all the bells and whistles, how to push it. Great CEO from that standpoint. Then there was someone else who was kind of a CEO/CTO of his business, Chris Makut of Notaris. And he got so technical that everyone in the crowd basically just started falling asleep because they didn't understand it, right? And so if you bring this back to maybe the greatest performance of all time, is when Steve Jobs said something very technical in a very everyone else can understand kind of way. So forever, people were marketing at the time MP3 players in the amount of memory that they had. Oh, this thing is 256 megabytes of memory, which at that point was a lot, by the way, people. Which he said, imagine having 1,000 songs in your pocket, the exact same data point, but in a way that people can articulate. And so if a person can't articulate it in a non-CTO kind of way, which is basically your marketing PR/maybe CEO type of person, then they have to find someone to present that so that it gets articulated, because otherwise people are like, well, what's 256K? I don't get it. And so I think there's something there, maybe not super early in a business, but like maybe that next step in a business, like hiring someone that can be that front man, because most people who are afraid to be on stage don't want to be there anyway. So it's probably a good thing to have that person. But I think that's an important thing for people who get performances. And I think most businesses that are going to be front facing need to do that. So
where do you fall on that scale, Emanuel? Because I see that you're a technical guy with a technical business, and I want to get into that. But at the same time, you write poetry, you're writing a novel, you dance, So like, where do you fall in that spectrum?
That's such a great question. I've always tried to, in the most poetic way, dance between the two lines of being creative and being technical. When I'm around technical people, I feel like the dumbest person in the room. And when I'm around creative people, I'm always absorbing and learning other things from them. And I think specifically to the pitch, when I graduated from Novus University, I bounced around 3 different majors. Like I went from IT to computer engineering, back to IT and the business MIS, because I was just trying to find my flow. Like I love business, love technology, and I love people. And so when I pitched our startup Novus on stage, it was hard because I was trying to be the creme de la creme when I was around technical people. So I was using more technical jargon around them. When I came around, normal everyday people, they were like, what is this? Like, I don't understand a word of what you're saying. Please break it down and make it understandable. So, Zach, to your point of bringing it to a level where everybody can understand the context, I really had to realize it's okay if I was battling like an insecurity thing of quote unquote not being smart enough, but I learned like if somebody understands your space, they'll ask you questions and then you can slowly ramp up the technical jargon, and that's okay.
Yeah,
read the
I guess
room,
to summarize,
understand
know your audience.
Yeah, read the room or ask beforehand, figure out who is in audience, because you can figure that out. You can have 2 different performances for that. A more technical one for technical people, just by asking the host the thing, like who's going to be in the, like what's the overwhelming majority of the people? Or maybe there's even a third, like there's nobody's that's going to be customers. They just happen to be people who are excited about entrepreneurship. And then you pitch to the right crowd, and then you have a better understanding of what they're looking for so that you can perform well.
And then in this case, Emanuel, you got like two hurdles that you have to cross. You've got the phishing aspect and that standpoint, and then you bring up Web3, and then people probably look at you crazy. So now you have to explain both of those aspects. So how do you do that when you talk to people, as we talk about your business?
Absolutely. So I start off by telling a personal story just about phishing and how a phishing message got dropped in my group chat. And all phishing is just a message coming from a bad actor that's supposed to mirror the real thing, but has malicious content behind it. So, for example, like if you've ever gotten those weird text messages from either a bank like maybe Federal or Wells Fargo, and has like some crazy text or something, like a URL that doesn't look like the real thing behind it, like that's an example of a phishing message, or the emails that end up in your spam folder. And so in my story last March, an Bitcoin claim link got dropped in my group chat. I pointed out, like, no, this is a phishing link. Like, don't click on that link to claim, this cryptocurrency that's not coming from the right source. And it was really just a wallet drainer to drain your digital assets and your cryptocurrencies from your wallet. So while it looks like a real thing on a website, it's not. And when the stuff like the branding looks right, when the logo looks similar, when the URL or the link looks legitimate, some things can be off. And so I was like, it hit me then like, dang, well, we need a way to alert users, one, that this link is fraudulent, and 2, hopefully, give them a message that will deter them from continuing to make that transaction. So yeah, and I think in a one-liner, like we want to help stop and deter users from clicking on phishing threats.
What in terms of like the Web3 aspect, what can phishing attacks do? Can they actually go into a digital wallet and take things from a digital wallet, or can they take ownership of an NFT? Can they do both, or is it just like gaining access to your clipboard or sensitive things like passwords or that kind of thing?
So phishing attacks in particular, they can drain wallets, and there's approvals and there's code on the back end, this thing called a smart contract that can automatically transfer over NFTs to the bad actor's wallet or their safe. And it's crazy because everything on the blockchain, there's just this immutable ledger that is in chronological order and can't be reversed, can't be edited, and can't be modified. So what's done is done. And it sucks because like there's no hotline to call. Like you can't call up the Ethereum blockchain hotline or Solana hotline or email or customer support. None of those things exist. And so when I talk about decentralization, it's like all decentralization is there are no gatekeepers for you to ask permission to. So we talk about on the Web 2 side of things, you got things like Gmail and Facebook and LinkedIn. So if you forget your password, you can hit reset my password and you can get your credentials back, and there's a retrieval process. In Web3, there exists no such thing. Like if you lose your seed phrase or your private keys, which are tools to back up your wallet, you're SOL right out of luck.
I mean, what I don't know what the stat is, and if you don't know, maybe Andrew can look it up. But like, how many, in terms of like Bitcoin, how many Bitcoin are lost and just gone because of people forgetting?
Well, at least the full hard drive.
I mean, there was a story of a guy going through a landfill, trying to retrieve a hard drive because that had his Bitcoin wallet.
$1 billion or something worth.
Yes, I think that those cold storage wallets, it's really funny because for Bitcoin at least, I think for other cryptocurrencies too, you need that seed phrase or that key to unlock your wallet, and all this is just a mnemonic phrase of randomized words that can unlock and give you access to those tokens. And so I remember reading the same story too about that guy. And so when he lost, he probably had a large amount of coins that were worth X amount of million or multi-million dollars. So it's like going to the ends of earth to find that. I'm pretty sure he was on edge and he had a mission.
He ain't gonna find it in a trash. I mean,
yeah. Did you? So Andrew just put in our private chat there 4 million Bitcoins.
Actual coins, not the value of the coin.
Valued at 140 billion based on the current price.
So we're talking about phishing, not phishing, but pH.
Yes.
You know, for my mom when she's listening, she's like, I don't understand if you weren't phishing, and she's like, you would reel it in and come on back. Sorry, Mom. How would you? So it seems like phishing before, and I feel a little bad referencing it this way, but you know, it was always like the African prince that's emailing you saying send me some money. That's kind of like the old school style of phishing. Now it's similar to that, but click this link and then now we got all your goodies. You see this stuff in your spam files. Sometimes stuff gets through, sometimes it looks very, very close to something. Like everything looks like a normal Apple email, but if you actually look at the email that it's sent from, it's definitely incorrect and more of the phishing type. It is a phishing email. Like if you were to write a blog post on how to improve your phishing pH so that it isn't screwing you, what would you tell people to do? What's the first couple of things that someone could do to not get screwed?
Yeah, so I think we could better phrase, I think, like how to improve your operational security. There's a few things you can do. And so I think the first thing is checking the link or that URL and making sure that it's legitimate. That comes from a verified source.
How do you do that before you click it, though?
Great question. So I think on I'm actually doing my cursor now, on like your laptop or your home PC, on your mouse or your cursor, you can hover over a link and you'll get like a little preview box. And most of the time with an asterisk, that can show you what the link is. But there are some, I forget what the term is, but there's like a way to spoof what that says in very rare cases. And on mobile, you can long press on a link to open like a short preview box of what that link is. And
I was always even afraid to go that far, to be honest. So that is, for the most part, safe to click on the preview just to see if it's legit.
That's safe to click on the preview. It long press on the preview, make sure it's legit.
Because it was like holding it a little longer.
Yeah.
Kind of what you do.
Yeah, like I think Apple's called like that 3D touch. That's one way to do it.
Mom used that technique. And Tim, was it your mom or someone that you had to fix their computer or something? I remember hearing that story. I thought you said it was about.
Yeah, my mother-in-law. She has a. But it's phishing in the sense of like the old school. Hey, we're going to call you on the landline for those people that still have them and say that, hey, we report that something's going wrong with your computer. We need you give us access to your computer so that we can identify what's wrong. And so
you hold it down. I'm literally doing it now. So you hold it down, you can see the full preview. Is that for Apple and Android?
I think Android has it too.
Okay.
But I know
before you click any link, even if it's from someone that you know, hold that down a little bit and get a little preview. And heck, if you don't like it, you don't have to keep going through. You're like, screw it, I'm not going. Even if it's not official.
Right. And I think in the Web3 space where things are moving at a very fast pace and prices can inflate very fast for assets like NFTs and for cryptocurrencies that drop every day. You can assume that everybody's always trying to make a quick flip or out to what they call in this space like up their bags. Like they're trying to make money very fast. And so things like FOMO or fear of missing out and being emotionally pulled. Like I used to day trade stocks when I was in college and swing trade options. So I know how that can feel when you're emotionally pulled by the rise and fall of currencies and making a lot of money in such a short, insane amount of time. And bad actors notice. They know it well and they use it to their advantage. And we have like, I guess you call them like blue chip NFTs. It's like Bored Ape Yacht Club NFTs or Moonbirds, etc. Or even like CryptoPunks. And like a message is framed like this is a psychological battle that's going on. And like I'm always curious about like how it's happening in real time and ways to defend and protect everyday people against it. So
who's your ideal customer and walk us through that customer journey when someone goes to your site and subscribes to your service?
Absolutely. So our ideal customer is somebody that's aged 14, 36 years old and has experience buying and selling crypto and has a non-custodial wallet, something like MetaMask or Coinbase or Trust Wallet or even Rainbow Wallet. And they're very active in this space. And what sucks is that nobody thinks they need security until they end up getting hacked or they end up getting their wallet compromised. And then it becomes reactive. So we at Novus, we're building a browser extension to help detect phishing attacks and also social engineering threats that might come from somebody that's impersonating, like let's say a Discord moderator or a Twitter account that looks like the real person or company or page, but they're not, and attack it right at the URL level. So right when the user clicks on the URL, Novus lets you know like, hey, we don't think you're on the right website. Would you like to go back to safety or continue with what you were doing before? And also explain why. So if you think about tools like extensions like Grammarly does a great job at telling you what you're writing is like, oh wow, this is pretty bad, but we can help you out here. Like we can help clean up your grammar. We can help make this text or this email more concise. And I love Grammarly, and so I was like, when I went to creating Novus, I was like, I want to have the same very user friendly approach, but to phishing and operational security. Let's tell the user why this link is bad. Like, was this created yesterday? And I think the user should notice. Or are there other types of phishing links that the same attacker has already put out?
So kind of similar to when you go to a non-secure website. So before, if you go to HTTP:// it'll say non-secure, and some people say it doesn't matter. I'm not going to a paid website or whatever. But it's similar to that, where something's popping up and saying, "Yo, like this isn't a good situation. Don't go here. This person doesn't have a secure site." It's a similar between that and Grammarly, but for the web, that's what we're rolling with.
Absolutely. I think HTTPS and that S being the secure function of the whole protocol is a great way to validate a site certificate. There's actually an extension out there called HTTPS everywhere. And so it'll on browsers like Google Chrome, it'll automatically enable HTTPS on sites you visit to make sure that the site certificate is safe, which is a good rule of thumb to make sure that the site you're on is legitimate. It's not true 100% of the time, but most of the time it's true.
And that's quite wild.
It was like once I went down the rabbit hole of phishing, I was like, oh wow, like we talked about the span of cybersecurity types of attacks. You have a lot out there, like there's phishing, social engineering, there's baiting, things like malware and ransomware and Trojan horses. But phishing is it's like the bottom hanging fruit, but it's the one that can grab a lot of normal everyday people, especially the young and the elderly, which bad actors routinely prey on. So when I went down the rabbit hole, I was like, oh, it won't be this deep. And it just keeps getting deeper the more I get into it. And I'm by no means a cybersecurity expert. I think of myself as like a super generalist, and I love to learn about a whole slew of things. But I was like, wow, like I'm going to need some help understanding this landscape. So having my network and reaching out to my network of security professionals that graduated at NSU, and it was just a huge blessing and a huge value add.
And you're still in the your customer discovery phase, and you're seeking input, and we'll make sure that we put that in the show notes so that if you want to participate in that, you can. Talk to me about customer discovery. Is that something that you're comfortable with? I think we were talking about recently, Zach, like just how some people are so afraid to talk to potential customers. What's your take on that? Your customers are going to tell you everything that you need to know.
Yeah, I love it, and I think I might get too carried away with it at first. So in Web3, a lot of people hang out on places like Twitter and Discord and even Reddit. So I would go on Twitter and I would look for people that had recently gotten phished and who were victims of attacks, and I would input in text and search bar like users who've been phished and MetaMask, and a whole bunch of tweets would pop up, and I would individually DM people like, hey, I'm so sorry this happened to you. Would you mind telling me more about your experience? Just to learn more about their pain points and what actually happened. And then I took it too far by going detective mode and search on a blockchain to find out like why they got phished. And
how do they trust you though after they just feel like they got screwed? Because I would immediately think that here's this guy doing it again. Like what are you saying that doesn't get people another red flag of, oh my God, I'm about to get phished again?
Absolutely. So it's funny because a similar scenario happened to me when I was in Discord in an NFT project that I used to be a part of, just scrolling into their general channel, and heard a story of one person buying the wrong token from the wrong site. And so I added her in the circle, like, hey, like, I'd love to learn more about your experience. And then we went to Twitter and we went to Twitter DMs. And then I sent her my Calendly link just to learn more. And she said, I don't even want to touch that. Like, I'm so petrified of links. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm not touching any links. And that's how bad her experience was because of her. And she lost about $90,000 worth of assets.
Wow.
And it was incredible. It sucks. And I was like, wow, like, I have to continue this conversation just over DMs. But I'm willing to meet my customers where they're at for the most part. And I think just being brutally honest, like, hey, I'm also working on solving this problem. And I think learning about your experience will help aid future customers and people.
Yeah, it was really fascinating on yesterday's episode of This Week in Startups. Episode 12. No, I just lost it. But they had one of the co-founders of Airbnb on the show, and they were talking about the early days of Airbnb, and that they actually flew to New York City. They found like the top 80 hosts in New York City. They flew to New York City. They went door to door to offer to take professional photos of the Airbnb space. But while they were doing that, they sat down with the customers and they just got invaluable feedback in terms of what was wrong with the website, how they can improve it. But they had done that multiple times, like getting on a plane, flying to New York City to get that feedback. And then with that feedback, they were able to fix like the reservation system, how different things worked on the platform. And then they emailed them back within a couple of days saying, hey, thanks for your input, it's fixed. And then they're directly increase in revenue based on Airbnb stays with that. So I mean, it was just a super cool story. If you get a chance to listen to that episode, I highly recommend it. But that was the one that was released yesterday.
Well, that's pretty incredible. And I think it's just like your customers will tell you everything you need to know.
Everything. Absolutely everything. And you're pretty active on the Twitter as well. I'm curious with that, how do you make time for that, or does this just so something hits you and you're like, I just gotta put that out? I just feel like I get so caught up in the day. Next thing you know, it's like 6:30 at night, and I'm like, yeah, maybe tomorrow I'll be a little bit more active. But man, I just get totally lost in the day. But I enjoy following what you put out there on Twitter.
Thank you. Yeah, I think Twitter can be a tool, and it can also be a time vampire if you let it be. You easily get sucked in with the algorithm and liking posts and really digging into like the dark side of Twitter. But I think it's like a bit of play there too, right? Like learning how to share your voice in 140 characters or less, and how to make how to just sharing your journey of what you're building in public or doing in public can be very advantageous. I've gotten to meet, just by sharing my story, I've gotten to meet a lot of incredible people, and also I got to interview some engineers that DM'd me. I was like, oh wow, like I really like what you're doing with Novus. I'd like to learn more. And I'm like, yeah, let's have a chat. And setting up my calendar link and going from there. And so I think it can be a great place to build relationships, as well as let off steam and vent about what you're going through, but you never know who's going through the same thing.
I feel the same way, because I feel like anytime that I want to put something on Twitter, it's always a reaction to something negative. And I try to keep everything light. I don't want to be like that guy on Twitter that's just constantly just venting and complaining about everything. I mean, it's just, there's enough of that in the world. So I don't want to be another one of those people. I try to spin it in a way of, hey, and instead of doing this, do that kind of thing. But yeah, it's Twitter. I continue to say Twitter is the most underutilized resource that this area does not use enough of.
I agree. Like I'm a fan of LinkedIn, and it's cool, but I think it's Twitter is a very casual place, and not. I feel like LinkedIn, like there's this extra, just buffer of, I guess, quote unquote professionalism, you could call it, that most people put like shield and put on a mask behind it. But Twitter's like, it can be a very raw and authentic place.
That's
fast place to receive news.
That's interesting. I would kind of, as you say that, I would think of this area more as LinkedIn than anything else, where the people think they need to be prim and proper, and it's like, yo, like this is a grungy Navy town. Call it what it is. Like, so it shouldn't really be like that. But people try to, or at least the people that you would meet at a lot of networking events do kind of act that way. And it's interesting that you said that. If I was, so we're talking about Airbnb, if I was an Airbnb host and someone came to town and said, hey, like I'm here for a week, I'm here for a couple of days. And they said, what are some of the things that are the go-tos that you have to do in the 757? What would you tell them? Where would you tell them to go? What would be the couple of things that are on the list, on Emanuel's list of these are the things you have to do in the 757?
Oh, that's an amazing question. So I'd say, oh, go ahead, Tim.
No, I was just going to say, if you had to think on that, I was just going to, for the audience, it is episode 1675 if they want to hear more from the Airbnb co-founder.
I appreciate that. Yeah, they'll be looking into that later. If somebody came to 757, I'd immediately, if they're an outdoorsy person, I'd recommend going to Mount Trashmore. I used to fly kites there as a kid. It's still one of my favorite places to go and relax and unwind. There's also, I forgot the name of that park by the ocean front, but First Landing State Park. That's also a very, that's like a locals only place. Like if locals know about that spot, and it's such a discreet, quiet beach location that you just have to pay for parking, but it's just so chill, and it's not bombarded with people in the summertime like the regular oceanfront is. It's like, oh wow, this is a private spot. So that's another spot. If they're looking for like places to hang out at, I really like going to the Mambo Room in Norfolk. It's a really cool place to they offer a variety of dance classes, and I love going to their bachata and salsa classes. And they also offer kizomba and West Coast swing and belly dancing. I've tried all of them, and it's a nice place to unwind and meet new people.
Interesting.
And they always have events going on. I think they have like
Zach, it's a good thing Megan doesn't listen to the show.
I have been to all three locations. However, the Mumba Room, I did not. It's in Ghent. It's on 21st Street, or maybe 20th, depending on where the actual business is. But I've been there, just not for dancing lessons. There was like a networking event there at some point. Those are all interesting. Mount Trashmore, First Landing State Park, definitely two locals, local fixtures, I would think, that people would say. And then the Mama Room, something that if we ask this question for the next 100 episodes, I don't think anyone else is going to say. So thank you for being the anomaly on that.
For sure. And I think for food, it's a hole in the wall spot called Thai Best. That's the best Thai food I've ever had in the 757.
What's it called?
Near Thai Best.
Okay.
And it's near the Navy base.
Do you like Thai food, Tim?
I love Thai food.
I'm not a fan, but
yeah,
I'm not super adventurous. But I am interested to hear. We were going to have you on the show last week, but you took a little trip. You were in San Francisco. Was that your first time in San Francisco? And what did you think of the Bay Area?
That was actually my third time in San Francisco, and I think everybody on Twitter is saying the Bay Area is like SF is back. The Bay Area is back. People are coming back. I think with the like the zeitgeist of AI and the different AI tools and protocols being released, it's now becoming the tech hub of the U.S. again. I can't really verify if that's true or not, but the energy in San Francisco is pretty incredible because everybody's always working on cool things in technology.
How do you define energy if people are typing away at their computers, or is it not like that?
It's a good question. So I can relate to most of my experience. I went for a 3-day hackathon hosted by BuildSpace. BuildSpace, they're the Hogwarts or the school for builders and hackers and hustlers that don't want to get a job, but instead who want to create their own online tools, products, side gigs, or even a startup. And at this 3-day hackathon for nights and weekends, it was people from all over the world, people from Italy and India to there's a guy from Peru and from Mexico. People came from all over the world.
Any idea how many people were there for the hackathon?
Yeah, so 125 people came. And this is season 2. For season 1, I think there were 60 people that came. So it more than doubled. And the energy was pretty insane. And the goal was to scale users and grow users and revenue over the course of 3 days for their already existing projects. So for season 1, I did it with Novus. And for season 2, I was like, I've seen how much progress can be done in 6 weeks and in 3 days. Why not do it for my novel and see what happens? And funny story, like I ended up pitching my novel to a bookshop in Chinatown in San Francisco and talked to roughly 60 people outside, a lot of who did not want whatever I had on my laptop at the time, and only 4 people stopped by. But it was like, wow, like people are hustling out here, and I just feel invigorated in an environment that I'm not comfortable in, like back home in a 7x7.
Yeah, I love the hustle. And that's one of the things. I don't know if it's just because in addition to being, so on one side we have the Navy, we're a Navy town. On the other side, where tourism is the other aspect. So it's like, does the tourism side of this area, does that keep things pretty chill and relaxed where people are on like a island time, so to speak? But it's like, man, the hustle in San Francisco or New York City is just unlike anywhere else. And you can just feel the energy, you feed off the energy. And here it's just not so much. Yeah, I mean, it's just like, I'll get to it when I get to it. And it's just like, before you know it, it's unfortunately, I see opportunity pass too many people by because they didn't execute fast enough.
I have this contrarian opinion where it's like, I think the cost of living has something to do with it. Like both New York City and San Francisco have an outrageous cost of living, but and I think that spikes a fire, or like it literally lights a fire underneath people. Like, wow, I gotta get moving and grinding, or else I'll be out of cash, I'll be out of runway. And I think in Virginia, like, it's a very safe and comfortable place to live in with a reduced cost of living. I don't think the urgency is there. I think that just might be one reason.
Because you're not paying $10,000 a month for an apartment with 4 people. Yeah. I like that pushback. I think that's interesting. I wonder if
that's great insight. One of the things, man, I was telling Zack and Andrew before the show, and one of the things that I thought was really, really cool, and because you were open about it on Twitter, as you were talking about runway. There's business runway and there's personal runway, and I thought it was really cool that you're like, man, I needed to do something, so I took a job as a dishwasher. And you put that out there. So I think very, very few people would do that. Just because I think that they're too proud to say that they would do that. And so I thought that was super cool. That, hey, man, I'm in this. We're going to make this happen. We're going to make this work. And if it means I got to wash a couple dishes on evenings or whatever, let's go. And
yeah, I was ready to roll up my sleeves. Pretty crazy. So after the competition ended, Novus was awarded $50,000 to hit our milestones and goals. And I had left my job last year as an account manager with Microsoft to pursue this founder journey and see what happens, right? And so I was like, you know what? I'll give it a shot for a year and see what happens. So come December, I'm like, wow, like I'm at 11 months. And I didn't read a fine print on Black Commission Project's website that, funds will be dispersed in 60 days. So I was like, yikes. One thing, always read a fine print. And two, it's always good to have a cushion. And three, I wasn't so serious in the founder journey at first. I was still flipping NFTs and trading cryptocurrencies online while learning how to build startups. So I wasn't really, my focus wasn't focused on the thing I should have been doing on the side. I was still trying to extend my runway by playing these short-term games. So when the crypto market fell, around March and April, so did my personal runway and burned. And so I couldn't, it was like I wasn't focused. And I should have opened a business bank account sooner rather than later. So all those mistakes led me to like being completely out of cash. And I was like, you know what? I'll take this job for 2 months and see what happens. And on my first day at the gig over at Neatbird VA, first off, I got hired. That was the fastest I ever got hired for a job ever. And it was like 18 hours after DMing them on Instagram. They're like, yeah, you can come in and start today. And I was like, wait, what?
Is that the whiskey chicken shop at the?
That's the whiskey. Yep, that's the whiskey chicken shop over in Chesapeake.
Is it any good?
It's delicious.
Okay.
It's really good. And I'm really grateful to their team for taking me in. I think last year I would have scoffed at the idea, but like, no, I have a college degree, I have X amount of experience in this company, that company, working at IT, But that was like, nah, like I roll up my sleeves, do what needs to be done. They have a part-time schedule that allows me to still work on my startup full-time. I was like, let's go. Like I'll do it. Let's do it. So I think it was really revitalizing for me too, because it made me appreciate the abundance of time that I previously had lost. And with that, once I put the tweet out, like I guess it went quote unquote semi-viral. And like a couple investors reached out to me, and one investor in particular just really enjoyed my story and wanted to see my journey, and later sent me over like a few grand just to keep going until our funding got injected. And so that was a huge blessing, and one that I definitely didn't see coming.
Wow. That's super cool. Yeah, I think that some people they get comfortable. They get in that ivory tower, so to speak, and they forget what it's like to have to roll up your sleeves and grind. Man, I love getting out there and grinding from time to time. I think it's really important that you got to stay humble. You got to be reminded to get out there, stay focused. And I just thought it was a super cool story, and mad respect for you for sharing it with the Twitterverse.
Thank you. It was really humbling too, because a lot of people reached out to me who were also founders, and some were working 2 jobs just to make ends meet. Some had families to take care of, and one guy was working at a supermarket and was like, yo, your story is inspiring. Like I'm going through the same thing right now. I think that's how you build a community. It's about being
100%.
raw and present and in the moment. Because I think it's a really cool thing to say when it's after all is said and done. It's really hard and messy, and icky to say like in the moment what you're going through, because I think just like the cyclical nature of a story, like it follows that hero's journey pattern. Like everybody wants to find out what happens next to this character, what happens next to this person. And I think if you're just vulnerable and can say that stuff in the moment, you'll never know who rallies behind you. And I wasn't looking for anything like pity or support. I just never tweet like in the moment tweet. So it's a magical world of Twitter, I guess.
I do think that, like, as we think about the 757, I wonder how many people have actually gone through, not necessarily going in and dishwashing and something like that, but how many people are more just like LinkedIn founders, aren't really gritty, resilient to put in the effort. You got a lot of people, what do they call Monday morning quarterbacks, if you will, that are just talk about the process of entrepreneurship. I tend to believe, as someone who's been in this community, I mean, over a decade, 15, that's kind of crazy to even think about the 15-year mark. Almost that. There's not a lot of founders in the true sense of what I think the three of us would call maybe a founder. And so, yeah, it's interesting to hear that story. It's exciting to hear that story, that other people are doing that to do whatever it takes. And I think more people that hear that story or see that story, they might not change their mind, but it might give them a little bit more respect for the people who are actually trying to make this happen instead of just complaining about, oh, this person made it because of whatever. It's like, well,
no,
how many balls did you throw into the court?
That's right. And that's my thing. I think that people around the community, they need to hear stories like this, because it's like, man, I can get behind someone who they're going to go to this length to make their startup work. So it's like, show a sign of support and vote with your wallet and support these founders, because this is what they're doing to make this successful.
Did you ever attend to Execute, the event that we did called Execute?
Yeah.
It was like those supers. Yeah. So I don't remember how many times we did it, but it was like micro, not TED Talks, because it's not TED Talk in any kind of way, but like 20-minute, 30-minute talks of like a founder who had become successful and the crap they had gone through basically to get there. And execute was the word, because you have to execute around it to make things happen. And a lot of what you're saying right now, Emanuel, reminds me of those days where we're hearing those, 12 to 16 people tell those stories over the couple of times that we did it. It reminds me of maybe the questions that I would try to ask when I had the TV show on ABC, where it's like, let's not talk about all the glitz and glamour of this. Let's talk about the stuff that like will help someone else watching make it to the next step. And no, I think that's cool that you did it. Why did you decide not to pursue it any longer? What made you throw in the towel on Neatbird? Because that founder gave you, or that investor gave you money and that was enough, or what changed your mind on that?
Absolutely. So it was, once he gave me the money, it was like 2 days. My first night working at Neatbird, put out the tweet. 2 days later, I had the funds in my account. So it was really crazy. The fastest turnaround ever. Like no term sheet, like didn't sign anything. It was just, hey, I believe in you. And it was on me to make use of that. So I thought about it for a week. I told my best friend about it. I called my co-founder and asked her opinion on it, and if I should take it or not, because it's really rare for those types of events to happen. Like you hear that happening to kids that graduate from Stanford or MIT or whatever, insert Ivy League name here, that just checks all the boxes, like has the right skin pigmentation, like has the right pedigree, and comes from this background and has
is he from
this
here?
number, etc. He's actually not. He's actually from South Africa, which is it's pretty funny. But it was just like I thought about it. I was like, wow, if this person believes in me, then it's time for me to believe myself again. There's still PTSD and scars from like falling down flat and having this really tumultuous journey, but it's this is quote from Rocky, I think from Rocky 5. I love Rocky, and Rocky was giving a speech to his son, and he said, "It's not about how many times you get hit; it's about how many times you still get hit and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done." And that quote has stuck with me since high school, and I think it circled back at that moment. It's like, you know what? I'm getting back in the ring. Like, let's go. Round 2.
Yeah. That's one thing that I tell my son all the time is it's like, man, you can't beat someone who doesn't quit, and it's just you just got to keep out there, get after it, grind, and I'll work out, or I'll outwork anybody. And I love that aspect of the startup world.
I'll leave you with this. What is your favorite Rocky movie? There's been 9.
Rocky 4.
Well,
I guess you got the Creed movies.
Why wouldn't you?
Right. I think Rocky 4 is absolutely my favorite. When he's up against that guy, Ivan Drago, that was
I would agree.
I still play the soundtrack when I take a shower.
Oh, Rocky 4 is good. I don't know. I don't know. I would probably say 2, 1, 4, 3, 5. And then the Creeds have got to be in there in a little different way. Creed 1 is probably 3. I like Michael B. Jordan. And Creed 3 is coming out soon, so that'll be interesting to see how that comes through. Emmanuel, it's been absolutely wonderful. Looking forward to meeting you in person at some point in the future. And I'm glad that you emailed Tim back that one day when he sent the email on Tuesday.
Yeah. For everybody listening, use novus.io. Support the cause. Protect yourself. Emmanuel, it's been awesome.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.